I couldn't think of any other way to start this, so it feels fitting to start with one of Dad's favourite jokes. Did you hear about the Randy gardener? He rhododendron. I, I'm sorry, I'm my father's son. So Herbie was born in Catesbridge, County Down, as the third child of David McCauley and Elizabeth Park on 24th of April, 1939, just before the start of World War II. He joined his older siblings, Mary and Norman, and they were soon joined by Iris. As a baby, he slept in a cradle made from an onion box, so perhaps his destiny was predetermined. Sadly, just before his third birthday, Herbie's mother Elizabeth passed away at the age of only 30. After that, the family moved to Lisnary Road. His father David later married May Cole, and together they added 4 more children, Lou, Edie, Georgina and David, making a family of 8. Herbie attended Church Street School and later the Abercorn, and around the age of 14 he left school and started his first job with a pony and cart delivering manure to people's gardens. It's safe to say that Herbie was mischievous from the outset, especially when he got together with Norman. Once given a tin of orange paint and told by their father to paint a horse trap, they somehow got distracted, and a nearby cat somehow ended up with his balls painted orange. The story ends with them being chased down the fields by their father after the cat wandered into the house and presented his aforementioned orange balls to the Reverend Lockhart. Herbie then worked for Believey Bleach Works for about 4 years and was a keen and talented football player playing for the Believey team. Herbie used to ride his bike everywhere, but not always looking where he was going. And that meant that the time he broke his nose, that was sort of his own fault. However, aged 18, there was another incident on his bike which definitely was not his fault. Riding home from a church dance one evening near McCauley's, a squad of on-duty B specials, and if you don't know what the B specials are, just think of them as kind of like the police reserves of the time. They were drunk, and they decided it would be fun to shoot the tail light off Herbie's bike. The bullet missed, ricocheted off the road, and it lodged itself in his right knee. They drove off and they left him for dead. When he regained consciousness, Herbie realized he was bleeding to death and managed to pull himself up onto his bike, freewheeled down the hill, across another road, and crashed to the ground near some houses and managed to summon help. He had several long stays in the Nissen huts at Musgrave Park Hospital, 9 months in traction, leg calipers, pins, all sorts to try and give him some sort of usable leg. Anybody who knew him couldn't not notice his distinctive limp. He didn't always reveal the details of what happened. Sometimes he just referred to a bike accident. And as we know that if you say you've been shot in this country, people make assumptions. So misadventure it may have been, but Herbie was never the one who should have been ashamed of it. I speak about this in detail because I feel that nothing else reveals his character more than how he got on with his life afterwards and made the best of things, despite being left with a lifelong and severe disability that would see him have further operations and be in pain right up until the 1990s. To Dad, there was no question of laying back and expecting life to land in his lap. He was never afraid to work. And as soon as he was able, he started back to work for Tom Moore at The Rock in the stable yard. In 1963, he met a certain Jeanette Wilson, who lived nearby with her uncle Sammy McClurg. Herbie won her over with his blue standard pickup truck, and they were soon very much an item and married on 27th of March 1965. Their first home was on the Dromore Road, and that's right where the dual carriageway Central Reservation now runs. In 1966, as that house was being demolished to make way for the new road, they took the opportunity to move to Swansea in South Wales to be closer to Mum's sister Millie and her family. Initially, they both worked in toy factories, making things like corgi cars, but Herbie then left and joined Tyson's doing heavy and demanding work, laying water mains and drainage, but then eventually spending the remainder of their 17 years in Swansea working for B&S Spares, which is a bit like Halfords of its day. Herbie travelled around England and Wales fitting out shops in an era when no blacks, no dogs, no Irish hadn't quite faded away. and the jibes of thick Paddy were still common. However, Herbie was more than capable of getting his own back. In the early days in Swansea, working on the building sites, his workmates were quick to notice that Herbie always went away somewhere else to relieve himself, rather than just go up against the wall with the rest of the lads. Word soon spread that Paddy was hiding something, and for every trip for a pee usually resulted in heads popping over trying to find out what. I know it's strange. Now, don't ask me how, but Herbie got hold of a vulcanized rubber appendage. If you don't know what I mean, ask someone beside you. And Herbie waited until he was being watched, and then he whipped his accessory out for all to see. The mental image of him chasing his fellow workmates around the site will stay with me forever, and I now offer that as a gift to all of you. By the time the house on Carmarthen Road became home, they had many close friends who became lifelong, and friendships that remained decades after moving back to Northern Ireland, eventually in 1983. In 1970, Herbie and Jeanette welcomed their first daughter, Sarah. And sadly, Sarah was born with severe brain damage and only lived for 14 months. She was never able to leave hospital. In March 1972, Claire was born, and then I followed in December 76. It is safe to say that Claire was a daddy's girl. In fact, she copied everything he did, which he discovered to his misfortune when having a bonfire to clear out his shed and threw an old coat onto it. Of course, Claire followed suit with her brand new that day coat. Mum was not amused and Herbie got the blame. Claire and I both have memories of Dad always building something in the house or in the garden. Mum was house proud and Dad was only too keen to give her a house we could all be proud of. We have lots of old cine film footage from the 70s, which is really wonderful to look back on now. And there's a surprising amount of men in drag. Not just Dad, but there are 3 others, and you know who you are. Dad loved a gadget, and back when he knew how to, Dad loved a gadget, and back when he knew how to use them, we were the proud owners of one of those massive VCRs where the tapes popped out the top. If you're too young to remember, back then they used to come with all sorts of features for home video enthusiasts, and ours included a microphone. Mum made the point of telling her school-run friends not to watch Coronation Street the night before, to come round the next morning when they could all watch a recording. Magic. Cue Dad hiding in the kitchen sniggering as a group of the gals in the next room slowly realise that he's dubbed his own voice over all the on-screen actors. How I wish that tape still existed. That VCR got a lot of use back in the days when bootleg copies of movies were all too common. Somewhere in the house there is still an early bootleg copy of E.T., but it's been cunningly disguised by adding in an extra letters, so the label reads Elsie Tanner. Sadly, Herbie's sister Edie was taken suddenly in 1977, followed by their mother May in 1981. And by 1983, Herbie and Jeanette were both homesick, and Herbie's leg meant that he was unable to continue working full-time as he had been. In November 1983, Halfway Road became our new home. Unfortunately, on the first night in the house, a bomb scare at the halfway house saw us all evacuated to the other side of the carriageway in the middle of the night. But thankfully, we were all soon able to return and resume the housewarming festivities. It was a house with a lot of laughter, usually at each other's expense. Like the time Claire and I put cling film over the toilet bowl, I can still hear the yells of him, or his Saturday morning wake-up calls when we were teenagers. And for years, this was an utterly traumatizing rendition of the song Ride on Time by Black Box, or the time he picked up some evil-looking doll when he was at the dump, and Claire returned home to find it sitting on her bed. I could go on, but the worst was probably sitting in the back seat on Sunday drives, and he would pretend that he hadn't noticed a sign for a garden centre, only to swing the car around at the last moment. Dad was very generous, but not recklessly so when it came to Claire and myself. He taught me the value of money. I worked all summer when I was 18 to save £750 for my first car to start uni in September. New car day arrived, and I asked Dad to borrow his red Ford Sierra estate, if you remember that, to go into town to get the money out of the bank, and he flat out refused. I was confused at first, but then he turned around and he just handed me the money. And he said that it was important that I had learned how to work and save for something and not just expect it to be handed to me. Over the years, Dad worked tirelessly to turn the rundown and previously abandoned Ulster Cottage into a modern family home. Well, I say modern. We did struggle on without central heating for a good few years, but I will come back to that in a moment. His ingenuity knew no bounds, like the petrol lawnmower come concrete cleaner. Power washers were expensive back then. This had a blade with scrubbing brushes attached to it that could scrub the concrete around the house nice and clean. It worked perfectly for about 10 seconds until the bristles wore off. And of course, then, once he'd finished with the house, he decided to try and do some more gardening. Who ever escaped a visit without a bag of tomatoes during the growing season? Now, Dad had started growing some onions and chrysanthemums way back in South Wales, but this time he took it to a new level. It will probably not surprise you to hear that the greenhouses had oil-fired central heating before the bungalow did, or that the police visited once to check out the suspicious-looking grow lights that burned day and night. Trying to list all of Herbie's achievements in the horticultural world would keep us here all day. There are thousands of prizes, countless trophies and medals and other accolades. He was so proud of his time as chair of the Banbridge Horticultural Society. And in 2009, he received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Banbridge District Council. He has a chrysanthemum named after him, and many of you, of course, will know how proud we all were as a family when in 2018 he had another new variety registered named Jeanette McCauley as a tribute to her. 1998 had both lows and highs. The passing of Herbie's father, and later the awarding of the heaviest onion in Ireland at just over 9 pounds and as big as a football. In 1999, he followed that up with the longest parsnip, something like 9 foot 9 inches, featured on BBC Newsline with Mervyn Jess when Mervyn Jess still had hair. It was a surreal experience for us sitting in the living room watching Dad's live television debut via the satellite uplink truck that was sitting outside the house. Cue the rumour mill in overdrive that the TV detector van was doing the rounds in the area and had caught Herbie for not having a licence. Surely not. Gardener's Question Time, UTV Life, BBC Newsline, newspapers, magazines. It's safe to say that if you needed any proof that Herbie was the expert on chrysanthemums, there is plenty of it there. Not that he acted like it. He was only too ready with advice and encouragement for people who wanted to learn. Always quietly confident, but never arrogant about it, and only too happy to congratulate another winner when it didn't go his way. In 2012, Herbie was awarded the prestigious gold medal and added to the roll of honour by the National Chrysanthemum Society at the NCS annual general meeting held, appropriately enough, in Swansea. He always said each year he was going to cut down a bit, but he never really did, until just the last few years. But even now, he's still managed to pick up a few more first prizes in just the last couple of weeks, including a 48-pound vegetable marrow. Trips every year over to the shows in Harrogate ignited a love for Yorkshire, and Mum, as Mum retired, they loved to travel back and forth every year to both Swansea and the Yorkshire Dales, making friends on every trip. When Mum died suddenly in January 2018, it was like the bottom had fallen out of our world. But we held together, supported each other, and we learned how to go on without her. Dad found great comfort in his garden. And as I mentioned earlier, to be able to have a variety of chrysanthemum named after Mum was a wonderful achievement, and one of the last blooms of Jeanette McCauley that he grew are being laid to rest with him today. Claire and I cannot express how grateful we are to everyone who surrounded Dad with love, friendship, laughter, and support in the 8 years since we lost Mum. Every last one of you has made his life better and happier. And to have so many people looking out for him is just the most amazing thing you can have for your parent when you can't be there all the time yourself. He was able to live an independent, fulfilling, and happy life in those last years because of all of you, and we love you for it. Sometimes telling someone that they're turning out like their parents is the worst thing you can say to them. Claire and I consider ourselves fortunate to have had Herbie and Jeanette as our parents. No one's perfect. Rose-tinted spectacles are a wonderful thing. But when you take a moment to look at all of you who've come out to pay your respects and have sent us messages of condolence, it's clear how much Herbie was loved. He has left behind an amazing legacy in the horticultural world and in the friendships he had, and no doubt it'll be a long time before his memory will ever fade. 86 years of a life well lived, finally reunited with his baby daughter Sarah and our beloved mum Jeanette.